Recognize the gentlelady from California, Ms. Jacobs, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, General Milley and Secretary Austin, for your service to our country and for your candor with us here today and in all of our times with you. As you know, I represent San Diego, one of the largest and proudest military communities in our country. And I assure you, when I'm getting phone calls from our military families, and I do get many, many phone calls from our military families, they're not calling about drag queen happy hours or the books their kids are being taught in school. They're calling about the fact that there's a 4,000 person childcare wait list. They're calling about the fact that some families are waiting up to 24 months for affordable housing on base. They're calling about the fact that more than 45,000 members of military families have to go to our food bank every single month in San Diego. And, you know, as we've talked about here today, recruitment and retention continue to be a problem. For example, GAO found that U.S. Navy surface warfare officers separate from the SWO community earlier and at higher rates compared with officers in similar U.S. Navy communities. And from 2017 to 2022, we've had almost a 2,000 person increase in the number of empty billets on Navy vessels. So, Secretary Austin, I wanted to ask you, how do you view the connection between things like basic needs allowance, childcare, and housing, and the recruitment and retention of service members?
These are all important things, and for sure, and thank you for engaging with our troops and our family members. I do the same thing, and what I hear from them are the same kinds of things that you hear. That's why last year we took measures to increase the number of resources that we were providing our families and our troops, and do some things to decrease the amount of strain that was being placed on them. So we asked you last year to support a 4.6% pay raise. You did that. We are grateful for that. We're asking this year for a 5.2% pay raise, which I think is the largest pay raise in decades. We raised the BAH. We raised a basic allowance for housing, basic allowance for subsistence, and I think it's those kinds of things that will help to alleviate some of the pressure. By the same token, you know, in this budget, you know that we're asking you for support for universal pre-K daycare. So I think it's those kinds of things that are really important. We're trying to increase the number of people that we have working in our centers, our child care centers, and we're doing that by offering incentives to people who work there. And we're seeing some returns on investment there. We will continue to do those kinds of things going forward. So.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank you for this current budget request that has so much to improve quality of life in ways we haven't seen addressed before. And I know we agree we need to invest in our service members, and we need to ensure that we're investing in our service members, including our LGBTQ+ and female service members and their families, just as much as we're investing in new weapon systems. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the recent strike in Syria. The administration previously told Congress that our engagements with the Iran-backed militias are too episodic to constitute the kind of ongoing and continuous hostilities that would trigger Congress's constitutional war powers. General Milley, you said if the American people don't support us, we shouldn't be there. That's exactly our job here in Congress as the people's representatives. It's why we are supposed to vote. Could you talk about why you think the tempo of conflict, including the 83 separate times that U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria have been attacked by Iran-backed militias since 2021, doesn't, in your view, constitute ongoing and continuous hostilities, and why these recurring hostilities don't require congressional authorization?
Yeah, I'm not a constitutional lawyer on those issues. I'd refer you to the lawyers who can answer those specific questions. I would tell you that Iran has a strategic purpose. That's to drive the United States out of the region, to drive the United States out of Iraq, to drive the United States out of Syria, and then to break down all the alliances that are happening along the Gulf. You do see some outreach that's occurring in various quarters by Iran, and you see a general sense of anxiety by many of the countries in the Middle East of a general withdrawal of the United States. So from a strategic standpoint, the question to ask is the United States posture in the Middle East about right? And do we, the American people, as represented by their elected representatives, to include the president, is our strategic purpose and our strategic task in Syria and Iraq, is that still worthwhile, and is it still worth risking American lives?
And I agree with you, and that's our job as Congress.
I think it is.
In my last few seconds,
but
sorry,
it's a
I just
debate.
want to make sure I bring up
Generally,
the fact
time's expired.
that Congress
Chair now
authorized
recognizes the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Banks.